The courtroom buzzed with the usual morning chaos as Judge Marcus Hendricks settled into his leather chair, adjusting his reading glasses, with the practiced air of a man who had presided over 23 years of petty disputes and broken promises. He glanced at his docket, noting the eviction case scheduled for 9 o'clock. Another landlord versus tenant situation, he thought, probably open and shut. When Eleanor Shaw shuffled through the oak doors, the judge barely looked up. She was 78, her white hair pulled into a neat bun, her floral dress pressed but decades out of style. The landlord's attorney, a young man in an expensive suit, sat confidently at the plaintiff's table, his briefcase already open, documents arranged in perfect order. Eleanor had no lawyer. She carried only a worn leather purse and an expression that seemed carved from quiet dignity. The landlord's case was simple and damning. Eleanor owed 6 months of rent on her small apartment, totaling nearly $9,000. The attorney presented bank statements, payment records, and certified letters. Eleanor had been a model tenant for 12 years, he admitted, but circumstances had changed. The property owner needed to sell, and unpaid rent was unpaid rent. The law was clear. Judge Hendricks turned to Eleanor, his tone not unkind but efficient. "Mrs. Shaw, do you dispute the amount owed?" Eleanor shook her head slowly. "I don't dispute it, Your Honor. I owe every penny," the judge sighed, reaching for his gavel. These cases always ended the same way. But something made him pause, perhaps the way Eleanor stood so straight despite the weight of the moment, or the calm in her eyes that spoke of someone who had faced far worse than eviction. "Mrs. Shaw, is there anything you'd like to say before I make my ruling?" he asked, more out of courtesy than expectation. Eleanor cleared her throat softly. "Your Honor, I'm not here to make excuses. I lost my income when my daughter got sick. I've been caring for her full time. But I wanted to stand here and face this with respect for the process." The judge nodded, appreciating her honesty if nothing else. Then, for reasons he would later struggle to explain, perhaps to lighten the mood or simply out of curious impulse, he asked, "Mrs. Shaw, you seem like someone who's lived an interesting life. Did you ever serve in the military?" The question hung in the air, unexpected and oddly personal. The court reporter's fingers paused above her keys. Eleanor's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes, something ancient and fierce. "Yes, Your Honor, I did." The judge leaned back, genuinely curious now. "What branch?" Eleanor's voice remained steady. "Army, Your Honor. I was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam." The courtroom went utterly silent. The landlord's attorney stopped shuffling his papers. Judge Hendricks sat forward, his earlier impatience evaporating. "A helicopter pilot?" he repeated, and Eleanor nodded. "Yes, sir, I flew medevac missions. We called them dust-offs." The judge found himself genuinely intrigued now, the eviction case momentarily forgotten. "Did you have a call sign?" he asked, half joking, expecting something light. Eleanor met his eyes directly, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 50 years and 1,000 untold stories. "Red River," she said quietly. "They called me Red River." Judge Hendricks felt something shift in his chest. He was a veteran himself, though he'd served in peacetime, and he knew enough history to understand what that meant. Women pilots in Vietnam were rare, almost unheard of in combat situations. Those who flew medevac missions had descended into hot landing zones under enemy fire, retrieving wounded soldiers while bullets tore through rotor blades and metal skin. They had saved lives while risking their own again and again, because that's what the mission demanded. The judge removed his glasses slowly, studying the woman before him with new eyes. Behind that grandmother's face stood someone who had once flown through hell with steady hands and nerves of steel. Someone who had brought boys home to their mothers. Someone who had earned a call sign that other pilots would have spoken with respect and perhaps a measure of awe. He thought about the eviction order in front of him, the cold mathematics of debt and law, and then he thought about what this woman had given and what she had been. Judge Hendricks cleared his throat, his mind racing through legal options he rarely considered. "Mrs. Shaw," he said finally, his voice different now, "I'm going to continue this case for 90 days. I'm also going to refer you to our Veterans Services Coordinator. There are programs, benefits you may qualify for that you might not be aware of." He looked at the landlord's attorney. Counselor, I'm ordering a stay on the eviction. Your client will be compensated, but not today. Eleanor's eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. She simply nodded once, the way a soldier might acknowledge an order. Thank you, Your Honor. As she turned to leave, Judge Hendricks spoke again, his voice quieter. Thank you for your service, Red River. Eleanor paused at the door, her hand on the frame, and looked back with a small smile that carried the ghost of the young woman who had once defied gravity and death itself. The courtroom remained silent long after she left, everyone present somehow understanding they had witnessed something rare. A moment when the system remembered that justice and mercy were never meant to be strangers and that some debts can never truly be repaid.